What happens when an animal is told it may never swim again? Imagine being born to glide through the ocean, your entire body designed for one purpose, every muscle, every bone, every instinct telling you, swim. And then one day, you can't. Not because you forgot how, not because you're afraid, but because the very part of you that makes you who you are is gone. This is a story about loss, about identity, about what it means to survive when survival asks you to give up everything. But it's also about something else, something we forget in our busy lives, in our scrolling, in our rushing from one thing to the next. It's about the moment when giving up seems logical, reasonable, even kind, and someone says, "Not yet." This is the true story of Winter, a dolphin who lost her tail off the coast of Florida, who faced a choice between death and an impossible dream, and who changed the world by refusing to accept either one. But before Winter could swim again, she had to lose everything. December 2005. The waters off Florida's coast are quiet, gentle, the kind of place where dolphins are born, where they learn to hunt, where they play. Winter was just a calf, maybe 2 months old, young enough that the world was still new, young enough that everything was discovery. She hadn't learned to fear yet. Like all bottlenose dolphins, Winter was built for the ocean. Her tail, her fluke, wasn't just a body part, it was her engine, her steering wheel, her identity. Dolphins don't have hands, they can't walk on land. Their tail is everything. Up and down, up and down. That motion is a dolphin's heartbeat made visible. It's how they chase fish, how they play, how they breathe. Take away a dolphin's tail, and you take away its life. By the time humans found Winter, she'd been trapped for hours, maybe days. The rescuers from the Clearwater Marine Aquarium cut away the rope, carefully, gently, hoping they weren't too late. But when they unwrapped that rope, they saw something that made their hearts sink. The damage was catastrophic. The rope had cut so deep, had been wrapped so tight, that blood flow to Winter's tail had completely stopped. The tissue was already dying, necrotic. And here's what made it unbearable. Dolphins don't heal like we do. Their tails aren't just muscle and bone, they're precision instruments, thousands of years of evolution packed into a structure so perfect, so essential, that even small damage can be fatal. The veterinarian team faced an impossible choice. Leave the tail, an infection would spread. Winter would die in agony within days. Amputate, and she might survive, but she'd never swim properly again. Dr. Mike Walsh, one of the lead veterinarians, said something that haunts anyone who heard it. We could save her life, but we'd be taking away the thing that made her a dolphin. Think about that for a moment. What would you choose? Because here's what amputation meant for Winter. Without her tail, she couldn't swim normally. She had to move her body side to side, like a fish, instead of up and down like a dolphin. That motion, that compensatory swimming, it wasn't just awkward, it was destroying her spine, creating scoliosis, slowly, painfully bending her body into a shape it was never meant to hold. Every day she survived was another day of damage. The team ran the numbers, they consulted experts, they looked at every case study of injured dolphins ever recorded. The answer was always the same. Dolphins don't survive without their tails, not in the wild, not in captivity, not anywhere. It had never been done. But there was something else, something deeper, something philosophical. Should survival mean giving up who you are? Should being alive require erasing everything that made you you? Or is there another way? The team at Clearwater Marine Aquarium didn't have an answer, but they decided to try anyway.
The people who saved Winter weren't magicians. They didn't have secret technology. They didn't have unlimited funding. They weren't even sure what they were doing would work. But they had something more important. They had compassion. and they had authority earned through years of hard work. Dr. Mike Walsh, the veterinarian who performed the amputation, didn't make promises he couldn't keep. He told the truth. This might not work. Winter might not survive, and even if she does, she might never swim properly again. But he also said, "We're going to try." The Clearwater Marine Aquarium wasn't SeaWorld. It wasn't a tourist destination with massive budgets and celebrity trainers. It was a rehabilitation center, a place where injured marine animals came to heal and, if possible, return to the wild. They'd saved sea turtles, manatees, dozens of dolphins, but they'd never faced anything like Winter. The team knew something crucial. Winter was still the hero of this story. They couldn't save her. Only she could save herself. Their job was to create the conditions for her to succeed. Physical therapy, constant monitoring, adjusting her diet, managing her pain. Every day was a gamble. But here's what they noticed. Winter wanted to live. She didn't give up, even when swimming was agony, even when her body was failing. She kept trying. And that's when someone had an impossible idea. Kevin Carroll was a prosthetist from Hanger Clinic. He made artificial limbs for humans, veterans, accident survivors, athletes. He'd never worked with a dolphin before. But when he saw Winter struggling, saw her spine curving, saw her determination, he said something remarkable. What if we built her a new tail? The room went silent. A prosthetic tail for a dolphin? It sounded like science fiction. Prosthetics for humans fail all the time. They rub, they chafe, they get rejected by the body, and humans can take them off when they hurt. Winter would be wearing hers in salt water, while swimming, while diving, all day, every day. No one had ever done this before. There was no blueprint, no instruction manual, no case study to reference. They would have to invent one, from scratch, with a patient who couldn't tell them when something hurt. But Winter didn't know it was impossible. So neither did they. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Step 1, save Winter. They'd already done that. The amputation was successful. Winter was stable, eating, interacting with her trainers. But her abnormal swimming was getting worse. The clock was ticking. Step 2, help her relearn swimming. Physical therapy for a dolphin looks different than it does for humans. No weights, no treadmills. Instead, gentle exercises, encouraging her to use different muscle groups, building strength. The team spent hours every day just watching her move, learning her patterns, understanding her pain. But everyone knew physical therapy alone wasn't enough, which brought them to step 3, build a tail that Winter would actually wear. Here's why that was nearly impossible. Prosthetics for humans rely on something called proprioception, your brain's ability to sense where your body is in space. You can feel a prosthetic leg, you can adjust your weight, you can take it off when it hurts. Winter didn't have any of that. Plus, dolphins have incredibly sensitive skin. Even small pressure points can cause wounds that get infected in salt water. And the tail couldn't just look right, it had to function right. It had to flex, bend, provide propulsion, handle the forces of swimming, forces that could snap a human bone. Kevin Carroll and his team started experimenting. Different materials, different shapes, different attachment methods. They tested silicone, too soft, hard plastics, too rigid. They tried straps, caused rubbing. They tried suction, didn't hold. Months passed. Winter's spine kept curving, and the question everyone was afraid to ask hung in the air. What if this doesn't work? Because there was a darker possibility no one wanted to say out loud. What if trying to help Winter was actually hurting her? What if the kindest thing, the right thing, was to let her go? The team had heated debates, ethical discussions, sleepless nights. Some argued, we're playing God. Dolphins aren't meant to wear prosthetics. Others said, she's alive, she's trying. Don't we owe her a chance? But here's what made them keep going. Winter never gave up. Even on her worst days, when the pain was obvious, when swimming seemed impossible, she kept trying. She trusted them, so they decided to trust themselves. There was no blueprint, so they'd invent one. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Step 1. Save Winter. They'd already done that. The amputation was successful. Winter was stable, eating, interacting with her trainers. But her abnormal swimming was getting worse. The clock was ticking. Step 2. Help her relearn swimming. Physical therapy for a dolphin looks different than it does for humans. No weights, no treadmills. Instead, gentle exercises, encouraging her to use different muscle groups, building strength. The team spent hours every day just watching her move, learning her patterns, understanding her pain. But everyone knew physical therapy alone wasn't enough, which brought them to step 3. Build a tail that Winter would actually wear. Here's why that was nearly impossible. Prosthetics for humans rely on something called proprioception, your brain's ability to sense where your body is in space. You can feel a prosthetic leg, you can adjust your weight, you can take it off when it hurts. Winter didn't have any of that. Plus, dolphins have incredibly sensitive skin. Even small pressure points can cause wounds that get infected in salt water. And the tail couldn't just look right, it had to function right. It had to flex, bend, provide propulsion, handle the forces of swimming, forces that could snap a human bone. Kevin Carroll and his team started experimenting. Different materials, different shapes, different attachment methods. They tested silicone, too soft, hard plastics, too rigid. They tried straps, caused rubbing. They tried suction, didn't hold. Months passed. Winter's spine kept curving, and the question everyone was afraid to ask hung in the air. What if this doesn't work? Because there was a darker possibility no one wanted to say out loud. What if trying to help Winter was actually hurting her? What if the kindest thing, the right thing, was to let her go? The team had heated debates, ethical discussions, sleepless nights. Some argued, we're playing God. Dolphins aren't meant to wear prosthetics. Others said, she's alive, she's trying. Don't we owe her a chance? But here's what made them keep going. Winter never gave up. Even on her worst days, when the pain was obvious, when swimming seemed impossible, she kept trying. She trusted them. So they decided to trust themselves. There was no blueprint, so they'd invent one.
The first time they tried putting a prosthetic tail on Winter, it lasted about 45 seconds. She hated it. Not mildly uncomfortable hated it. Full-on rejection, thrashing, refusing to swim, refusing to eat. The team watched their months of work sink to the bottom of the pool. Literally. But they tried again. Different design, different materials, different attachment method. This time, Winter tolerated it for 3 minutes. Then she scraped it off against the pool wall. Again, and again, and again. Each failure brought new problems. The prosthetic rubbed her skin raw, wounds appeared, and salt water, even tiny cuts, can become infected. The team had to stop, let her heal, start over. Maybe, someone said quietly, this is the universe telling us to stop. Because here's what they were facing. Every failed attempt made Winter more resistant, more distrustful. Every day with the prosthetic caused potential harm, and every day without it, her spine curved more. They were trapped in an impossible situation. Trying to help her was hurting her. Not trying meant watching her slowly deteriorate. The doubt crept in. Are we being cruel? Is keeping her alive like this even ethical? Would she be better off if we just let her go in the beginning? These weren't rhetorical questions. These were real conversations, real doubts, real moral weight. Kevin Carroll later admitted, there were nights I went home and thought, what am I doing? I make legs for soldiers. Why did I think I could make a tail for a dolphin? The pressure was enormous. The world was watching. News cameras, documentaries, children sending letters. Everyone wanted Winter to succeed. But wanting isn't doing. And in the quiet moments, late at night when the cameras were gone and the visitors had left,
Winter was just a dolphin who'd been through trauma, who'd lost part of herself, who was being asked to trust people who kept hurting her, even when they were trying to help. The team had to make a decision: keep going and risk Winter's quality of life, or stop, admit defeat, and accept that some problems can't be solved. And then, something changed. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't a movie moment, but during one training session, while they were fitting yet another prototype, the 20th, the 30th, Winter did something different. She didn't thrash, she didn't fight, she held still. Just for a moment, just long enough for them to attach it properly. And then, carefully, tentatively, she moved. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but deliberately. Up and down, like a dolphin. The room held its breath. No one moved. The trainers stood frozen at the pool's edge, afraid that breathing too loud would break the spell. Winter floated there, adjusting, sensing. This tail was different from the others. New material, a special silicone gel liner that Kevin had designed specifically for her sensitive skin. New attachment system, new shape. And then, so slowly you almost missed it, Winter pushed down with her tail. She moved. 1 foot, 2 feet, not side to side like she'd been doing for months, up and down, the way dolphins are supposed to swim. Another stroke, stronger. Her body, for the first time since the accident, straightened. She dove, turned, came back up. And on her face, if you believe dolphins can show emotion, and anyone who worked with Winter will tell you they can, there was something that looked like joy. "She's doing it," someone whispered. For the first time since December 10th, 2005, after months of surgery, physical therapy, failed prototypes, doubt, and pain, Winter swam like a dolphin again. Not perfectly, the tail wasn't natural, the movement wasn't identical to before, but it was hers. She wore that tail for 20 minutes that first day, then an hour, then all day. Her spine stopped curving, the pain decreased, the spark came back in her eyes. Kevin Carroll stood at the pool's edge and watched his impossible idea become reality. "I didn't save her," he said later. "Winter saved herself. I just gave her the tools." And that's when everyone realized this wasn't just about one dolphin anymore.
Word spread. At first, locally, Clearwater residents came to see the dolphin with the prosthetic tail. Then, nationally, news crews, documentaries, magazine articles. But something unexpected happened. The visitors weren't coming just to see a curiosity. They were coming to see hope. Children with prosthetic legs stood at the glass and saw themselves. Veterans with missing limbs drove hours to visit. Parents of disabled kids whispered, "Look, if she can do it." Winter didn't just learn to swim again. She became a symbol, proof that losing part of yourself doesn't mean losing all of yourself. Proof that adaptation isn't surrender. Proof that the end of one chapter can be the beginning of something entirely new. The aquarium started programs, educational initiatives, outreach to hospitals and rehabilitation centers. They'd bring kids to meet Winter, kids who were struggling with their own prosthetics, who felt different, broken, less than. And they'd watch Winter swim, fast, graceful, powerful, and something would shift in their eyes. If a dolphin can do it. Winter never knew she was inspiring people. She was just living, just swimming, just being a dolphin in the way she'd learned to be a dolphin. But her impact rippled outward. Thousands of letters arrived at the aquarium, not asking for anything, just saying thank you. Thank you for not giving up on her. Thank you for showing us it's possible. Thank you for proving that different doesn't mean less. The prosthetic technology Kevin developed for Winter, it led to innovations in human prosthetics, better gel liners, new attachment methods, improvements that helped veterans and amputees around the world. Winter's tail didn't just save one dolphin, it helped save countless people. And through it all, Winter just swam. Here's what Winter's story teaches us. Disability isn't the end. We live in a world that often sees people and animals in binary terms: whole or broken, able or disabled, worth saving or beyond help. Winter shattered that binary. She proved that survival doesn't require perfection, that adaptation is its own kind of strength, that losing something doesn't mean you've lost everything. The technology developed for Winter, those gel liners, those attachment systems, they're used in human prosthetics now. Veterans who lost limbs in combat wear innovations that started with a dolphin in Florida. Children learning to walk with prosthetic legs benefit from research that began in an aquarium tank. Athletes competing in Paralympics use technology refined through Winter's trial and error. But beyond the science, beyond the engineering, Winter gave us something more important. She gave us permission to hope. In a world that moves fast, that demands perfection, that often discards what it considers broken, Winter said, "Wait, I'm not done yet. Watch what I can become." And millions of people facing their own impossible situations, their own losses, their own moments of doubt, heard that message. Innovation doesn't always come from laboratories or universities. Sometimes it comes from compassion, from refusing to accept impossible as an answer, from looking at a small, injured dolphin and saying, "Not yet. Let's try one more time." That's Winter's real legacy. Not the tale, the hope. Winter lived for 16 years after that crab trap nearly killed her. 16 years of swimming, playing, inspiring. Her story became a movie, actually 2 movies, Dolphin Tale in 2011 and Dolphin Tale 2 in 2014. Millions more people met Winter through those films. But the real Winter, the actual dolphin living in Clearwater, she remained a constant presence. Day after day, year after year, she swam. On November 11, 2021, Winter passed away. She died from a gastrointestinal abnormality, nothing related to her tail. She was 16 years old. That's younger than many dolphins live, but it's also much, much longer than anyone expected after that December day in 2005. When the news broke, the tributes poured in. From around the world, from people Winter had never met, from children who'd grown into adults carrying her lesson with them. She taught me not to give up. She showed me I wasn't alone. She proved different could be beautiful. Winter never got her old tail back, but she gave the world something better. She gave us proof that loss doesn't have to be the end of the story, that it can be the beginning of something we never imagined, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just keep swimming. If Winter's story moved you, if it reminded you that impossible is just an opinion, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you want more stories about the quiet heroes who change our world. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Winter for everything.